Today, the expert of the ecological approach for BJJ, Greg Souders, is going to teach me, a BJJ blue belt, how to design games to train myself and other athletes without any drilling involved. I am not an expert in this and have never actually designed an actual game. I've read a few books, interviewed students and coaches, and flew across the country to train with Greg for 3 days. But I'm still new to this, so I am not trying to teach others how to do it. Instead, I want you to see me live on camera, attempting to learn game design from the expert, so that you can learn from my mistakes. We're here at Standard Jiu Jitsu, where students never train with non-resistant static drilling. Instead, classes are mainly composed of small games, designed to both refine existing skills and to get new skills to emerge. These games look similar to situational sparring, but there's some nuance. Recently, one of Greg's star students, Deandre Corbe, won ADCC West Coast Trials, which caught my attention, so I had to figure out what was going on here. People typically refer to this type of training as the ecological approach. More specifically, this is the constraints-led approach, which is a coaching methodology under the umbrella of ecological dynamics, which has existed for a long time, but Greg is pioneering it in the BJJ world, along with numerous other gyms popping up worldwide. The problem is, the discussion of all this theory is typically bogged down with a lot of technical jargon. So today, I want to finally find out what real practical game design looks like, without all of the theory and big words. First, Greg is going to teach me to design a game based on a common issue that I face in competition. Next, I'll take on the challenge of designing a game for 2 other athletes, and then coach them through it. And by experimenting and changing the game multiple times, I want to see if we can get skills to emerge. Keep in mind that most of this experimentation and design process would actually happen behind the scenes, and classes would be way more streamlined. Although you would of course use the outcomes of the classes to iterate on the games. We're doing all of this for 3 reasons. Firstly, to show the simple, practical application of implementing the constraints-led approach. Second, to give inspiration for designing games for your own training. And third, to give you some inspiration for designing games to coach others. Here are a few things I hope to demonstrate with this video, and if you would like to read through this full list, feel free to pause the video now. And before we get into it, I want to give a huge shout out to Greg for doing this with me. After literal hours of talking with him, he's one of the nicest guys I've met. And it's very clear to me that his true motivation comes from just trying to develop better athletes. And thank you to Noah and Rod for participating in my little experiment. How will I fare in this challenge, and what lessons are we going to learn today? Let's find out.
Mr. Greg Souders.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I need your help designing a game for me.
Okay.
I guess I'll give you my ideas, and
sure.
then you, as the professional game designer, I'm going to need your feedback. This is my final test after being here for just 2 days of classes, and then watching Deandre give a full private just now on his rear triangle game design. So.
Okay.
Any tips for me before I begin designing this game?
No. What I like to do is just start where you're at. So just your experience as an athlete, your experience as somebody trying to guide their own training, I'd like to meet you where you are and try to deliver your answer that way.
Okay, perfect. So one problem I'm having stems from competition. For some reason, I'm always finding myself when I'm trying to pass the guard in somebody's half butterfly.
Okay, okay.
And my first question is, do we even think about half butterfly in those terms?
Oh, we can use any terms to start with. If your experience about that position jiu-jitsu is defined for you by the half butterfly, that's fine, we can start there. Luckily, I'm also well versed in jiu-jitsu, so I can take that language and interpret it, so I know exactly what you mean. We're in a situation where you have 2 legs, or someone has 2 legs wrapped around your one, and they have an inside hook. And for some reason, something there is causing you a problem.
Exactly, yeah.
Yep.
So I guess we can start in that position, so if you go belly up.
Okay.
Yeah, so I always get here. And the main problems I'm having in competition is getting access to the upper body, because I feel like I want to get some sort of connection like this so that I can start
Absolutely.
trying to get my leg free.
Okay.
But the main problem I'm having is that people are really like aggressive with this knee, keeping space, also particularly with these frames.
Okay.
One thing a lot of people do is like control my wrist.
Okay.
They start like dragging my arm this way, or they'll grab this one and start dragging me this way.
Okay.
And then they'll start to elevate me this way, so I don't know exactly how that's happening.
It could be this way, it could be a bunch of different ways, but go under the leg.
Yeah, that happens a lot when I access my leg.
For sure.
And so what I think I want to do is, get access up here somehow.
Okay, fantastic. Perfect.
And so I guess if I was thinking to design a game for that, We would start here in this position.
Okay.
I guess we both need goals, right?
Okay.
So I guess my goal would be to connect. See, this is where I start to get in trouble, right?
It's okay.
What are
Give
my
it a try.
goals?
Go ahead.
Right. So maybe one of my goals is to just get chest to chest contact.
Okay. So let's use just what you said as a way to design a game. Now, imagine right now we don't know really what we want. So we're going to, I have an idea. I have an intention. I know that I want to get past the knee. I want to get past the hands in order to get chest to chest. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a shot. Great. That's a great way to start. You know your intention. Right. You know what your outcome wants to be, so you can, that's the game design. You stay here. I'm going to try to get chest to chest. That's my win condition. And you could give me something random. You could say, let's just, like, what would be the problem that they give you as it relates to you achieving that outcome?
Actually, it's really like back exposure on this side, or it's like I get my leg exposed.
Beautiful. So let's create a simple condition here for the bottom player. We're going to say the bottom player, they're going to play a continuous game. Your job as the top player is to get chest to chest and you win the game. My job as the bottom player is to use my connections, that's my hands and my feet in any way, to try to get you to continuously touch the mat. There's no way that I can win, but I'm going to try to use my connections and all their capabilities to try to make you touch the mat over here,
right,
or on the other side of my body as much as I can. If I make you touch, I just try to hold the line for as long as possible. I'm not going to sweep you. I'm not going to take your back. I'm not going to come up. And you're going to try to keep orienting to try to face me and complete your task of creating chest-to-chest contact. So that would be the game that we're going to play.
Okay.
So now, regardless if just trying to get chest-to-chest is optimized or not, the interaction between me and you as we both try to accomplish our tasks is going to reveal something about the nature of that engagement between you and I. Maybe giving us what we might want to focus on next time we work on developing this skill.
So we do like an iteration of this game, and we could add more constraints. We could remove constraints.
100%. Okay. But we need to see what emerges first. So we start with one intention, we play towards it, we let behaviors emerge, we analyze, and then we redesign based on what either player needs to ultimately learn how to get the outcomes we desire.
Okay. Do you want to play the game for like 2 minutes?
For
and then
sure,
we
man.
Can try
Absolutely.
That? Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Make sure you secure it. Anytime you create a terminal point, just really commit to it. You know? So we know that you made it.
Terminal point, okay, that's whenever the win condition is about to be met, we want to stabilize.
Yeah, you really want to show that I did the thing that I was intending to do.
Right. That was interesting, and I already saw like some things that were happening, right?
Okay, so let's both analyze this together.
Yeah.
Okay, so we played a game, we set an intention. Your job was to create chest contact on me. My job was to use my connections to destabilize you to your hands on either side, which is what I tried to do as you try to do yours. And as we interacted, however we did, things happened.
Yeah.
So in your mind, what did you get from just interacting with it in that way, in that small way?
So the biggest problem that I found that you were giving me was your hands. And that was throwing me for a loop because like traditionally when I think about trying to pass a guard, the thing that I think about is like digging for underhooks and stuff.
Okay.
What I was trying to do was essentially just move my upper body in a way that would like beat your periphery quick enough that I could get chest-to-chest contact. But I realized I can't do that if you're controlling A lot of the time you had these 2-on-1 grips, right? So you would either control this hand or you would control this hand, and I couldn't do anything when you had full control over one of my arms.
Why do you think I was able to exhibit and get to that control point so quickly? What about our exchange made that available to me?
I think because I was putting my hands on you instead of putting my hands on your hands.
Maybe that is a possibility. If your hands are on mine, it'll be more difficult for mine to be on yours. So let's imagine that was your idea.
Yeah.
And you wanted to express that and see what the outcome of having that idea would be in the game. You just restart the game, have the same goal, chest to chest, but now you wanted to play on the hands.
Right.
And then as you did that, and now you can see what's the relationship between that intention and achieving your ultimate outcome. And you gain information about that exchange.
Right, right. I noticed at the end when I pinned one hand, I had a much easier job moving towards your center mass.
For sure.
Okay.
Because I had nothing in the way anymore.
Right.
Now there's something that I feel that you weren't doing, but I wonder if you noticed what that was.
I'm very curious, yeah.
Very curious. So I could break my rule and I could tell you what it is.
I want to figure it out.
I want to figure it out. Okay, so let's do this one more time.
Yeah.
What I want you to do is I want you to keep the goal of chest-to-chest contact as your win condition or to make the game quit. I'm going to keep mine. I'm going to use my connections, destabilize either side, but I want you to add the added task of getting to my hands faster than I get to yours.
Okay.
And if I get yours, get back to mine. Let's see if that helps you improve at winning the game.
Okay, sounds good.
That was strange to bring my eyeball.
There was something that happened there at the end.
Okay, yeah. We did the same thing we did the first game, but we just added a different task constraint. Get to my hands before I get to yours. And win that hand fight as a new aspect of the game to see if it helped you achieve your ultimate outcome, which in this case was chest to chest. So what do you think about that? Did you notice anything about the exchange?
So the first thing I noticed was that when I wasn't focusing my attention on your hands the first game, I found myself continuously trapped by your hands.
Okay.
With especially the 2-on-1 grip, so I was constantly in this cycle of having to peel both of your hands off of my arm. Whereas this time, when I focused on winning the hand fight, I felt my arms a lot less trapped. I was still having trouble getting the chest to chest, but at least there was only a few instances this time where I had to like peel off those whatever kind of 2-on-1 configurations you had. Yeah, anything on that first? There was a second thing I noticed at the end. But
so I do. There's something that you're not doing still.
Okay.
Now
That's what I figured.
Rather than tell you, here's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a constraint.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a new task, and I want you to see if it changes. I want to keep your previous two. So your win condition is chest to chest. I want you to prioritize getting to my hands before I get to yours. Prioritize that hand fight, but you're going to try to achieve that ultimate end. But this time I want you to do this. I want you to constantly be trying to put your chest on my chest the whole time. So the most important thing that I want you to do is come forward and put your chest on mine. Deal with the hands as they present. Come forward. That's the most important thing. Constantly be trying to put your chest on my chest. Don't wait for it.
Okay.
Let's see if that changes things.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. Forward. That's your constraint. Fight forward. Yep, that's it. So you're
Figure out what's going on here.
keep it the same. Come forward as you fight. Let's go. Put weight on each. Come on. There we go. Come forward. Good. What were you missing in the previous 2 games?
Well, so what I felt like what was happening that time was, one, just an active attempt to put my chest on your chest instead of waiting for like this perfect sort of opportune moment to just like close the distance. And the other thing that I felt was happening was that whereas before I was kind of wanting you to be flat first before I could get chest to chest. Whereas at this time, since we had that sort of task of me putting my chest to your chest no matter what, I was even willing to do that at an angle.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is...
Well, no, it's good. Let's talk about this.
Okay.
So you said something when you first trained here, when you first
Yeah.
trained with Noah, you said when you first started rolling with him, it was difficult to focus on the tasks because you were trying to focus on doing it right.
Right.
But let me ask you a question. Why would you have to do anything with your hands or body if you weren't first trying to come forward? If you weren't trying to come forward, why would I move?
Right.
Why would I put my hands up at you?
Right, because you want to create distance from bottom.
That's right, but I only want to create distance if it's being taken from me.
Right, right.
So if you don't first force the taking of that distance, my hands don't have to do anything.
Oh, and then we're just sitting here and you're able to just grab me.
Right? So if you understand the nature of the engagement, it becomes easier to understand why we select the tasks that we do. But sometimes we don't have that information, and we have to start with some intention. So that's why that first intention you started with was, I'm just going to try to put my chest on your chest. That was actually a great starting point, because I feel like all the hand fighting that we do, all the destabilizing I'm going to do, has to relate to how that distance is being managed. And if you're constantly closing it on me, which as the bottom player I don't want, I'm going to have to react to prevent that. And it's my resistance in reaction to your forward pressure that's going to start the engagement.
I see. I think the thing I'm worried about too is because like, and this just clicked right now, when we made the task focus explicit that I had to get chest to chest no matter what, it gave me freedom, I think, and I felt free to experiment. Whereas like before, again, trying to focus on the proper techniques, I don't want to look stupid.
Right.
Yeah, that task focus just brought out more creativity.
For sure.
I think, is what.
Because this is one of the problems with the traditional approach is that it assumes optimization. But what is optimization outside of function and effect? If we're not first trying to create an effect, how do we understand the function of our actions, right? How do we develop that relationship? Is it an aesthetic, or is it just something that needs to happen no matter how it looks? And the latter is a better explanation than the former. If you're obsessed with an aesthetic or an idealized version of the technique, that is what you'll actually be searching for. But if you start instead searching for the effect your actions have, it's easier to understand what's happening and go in the direction you want to go in.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm focusing on an idealized technique because I have it in my head, like that I'll look like Joseph Chen, like digging those nice underhooks, right? Like getting the head block, all this nice, like.
For sure. Well, I watched Joseph Chen, and I'm sure that motherfucker knows he's got to come forward. You know what I mean?
Right.
So even when he looks good doing all his stuff, he's still trying to come forward.
Right.
And so it's his forward progression that he's linking to all the actions he's doing with his arms. Right. Joseph Chen wouldn't look like Joseph Chen. He wasn't actually trying to get close to you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
okay. Cool. I think that's good for that game. The next thing I wanted to do was try to design a game for 2 athletes. And I don't know if one of these guys wants to try to jump in. But
Rod.
What's up? I'm Noah. Hey, I'm Rod.
I'm Josh.
I'm just kidding. I'm Greg.
All right, we'll get into it. Is this an inside thing?
It has to go in the video.
Okay, got it. Okay. Greg just helped me design a game that I implemented on him right now, and that was my first test. Okay. My final test is I'm gonna see if I can coach you guys on a game. Okay. I'm gonna design a game to try to get some kind of skill or behavior to emerge, And do you want to be my assistant coach?
I do. You listen. Whatever he says, you do. Okay.
Yes,
Actually, yeah. For the sake of the video, should we treat them as though they're complete beginners?
They're going to do what you tell them. That's all we're going to
Right,
constrain
okay.
this to. They have experience, so
Yeah.
they can't get that out of them. That's part of their
Right.
individual constraints. So just give them tasks. They'll try to give it to the best of your ability.
Okay. So what I want to see if we can do is basically triangles from bottom position. So that's kind of a classic move, the triangle from closed guard. And I think one prerequisite to that, though, is the ability to trap the top player's arm and head in a closed circle with one arm out.
Wonderful.
Right? I think that's a prerequisite for a triangle.
It
So we'll design a game based on that. I think what we're going to do is we'll have one player start on bottom, one player start on top. We'll start in a closed guard. And the bottom player's goal, they win if they're able to simply trap a head and an arm with one arm out. That's a win condition. And the top player can win if they're able to successfully disengage from the guard. So that means opening the closed guard and resetting to some sort of neutral position. Start with that.
Okay, so as the assistant coach, these are new students,
Yeah.
correct?
Correct.
What tasks are they going to use to get to the one arm in, one arm out scenario? What's going to be their central focus to achieve that end?
Right. As the bottom player, you should be focusing on. This is where we figure out if I know jiu-jitsu, right?
Let's go.
As the bottom player.
Luckily, you're newer player, so it's not that bad.
Right.
You're not a black belt or nothing.
Right, thank God. As the bottom player, your task focus is going to be to control the hands. You want to focus on getting the hands and really focusing on pushing one hand and keeping it trapped towards the top player's body. And this should allow you to get your legs locked in front of
Do you want to show them an example of what you mean by locking your legs around the head and arm?
Yeah. So if we're in closed guard and I'm able to, this is one way, if I were to just trap an arm there and then lock my legs here, we would consider this a win condition.
Okay, cool. And top player just wants to open the legs?
Yeah, and top player has to open the legs. So if we, so any type of way, you can do any weird things you want. You can peel the feet if you want and disengage. You can stand up, break the legs open. That's the top player's win condition. I'm trying to see what's happening. This is I guess the first challenge of this is to see
Well, notice
if the game is...
he's following your original constraint. You want to push the hands in, so he's doing what you told him.
Right. And we're trying to see if this is getting any correct behavior to emerge. Okay,
All right.
so that's
Well, it's not correct, just a behavior. We're just looking for a behavior.
a behavior. We're seeing which behavior occurs.
We're seeing
based
what
on
happens.
that. Right, okay. So that was a win for Noah, so switching positions.
So Noah can only push to the center,
Okay.
focusing on the hands.
There's a stand up there.
You have to open my legs.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
has to open your
All right,
legs. Yeah,
switch.
okay. So the legs are open, so they switch.
So we just watch the results and see what's happening. And then we could change the constraints based on what you think they might need.
Okay. I think I have an idea. I may have overly constrained the game.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
Okay, so that's a win. I have a theory. Let's see.
$54?
Now I'm torn between whether it was overly constrained or if I have the wrong initial task focus.
Okay, could be. So again, this is what your job is. Your job is to have an idea, have an intention, give them the tasks and the objectives, and then have them go to work. And based on what you see what's happening to these two athletes, you're going to have to think about what to tell them to do next based on what's actually happening.
Right.
Now, you can use your knowledge of how triangles happen to do that.
Right.
But we also need to compare that with what's actually happening here.
Right. I feel like after this too, we should do a quick debrief with them to see how they're feeling with the game.
Yeah.
I know that probably wouldn't happen during a normal practice,
Well,
right? 'Cause you already
right now
designed
we're
the
trying
game,
to tease out game design itself,
Right.
you know, because we can use the constraints-led approach for 2 athletes, a room of athletes. So right now we're doing it on 2 athletes.
Right.
So let's see what they have to say.
All right, good job, athletes. What were some issues that you ran into? So with the ultimate intention of locking legs around a head and an arm.
Pushing the hands into him felt like when I went to open my legs, there was still stuff in front of me, stopping me from closing my legs, and that I was pushing him away from me.
Having to focus on pushing my opponent's hands to him and not really having any other task focus, felt like I kept running into the issue of pushing into a postured up player and then giving them the ability to stand back up to their feet and open my legs. So I feel like there were some things that I had to accomplish before trying to connect my partner's hand to their body.
Okay, so a triangle is not what I thought it is.
Well, you have the scenario right. You
Right.
know that its precursor state is arm in, arm out. Okay, great.
Right.
But what are the precursor states to arm in, arm out?
I don't think we want them to go away first. I think we want to bring them into us.
Okay.
So I think one of the first tasks should actually be controlling the opponent close to your body, and that could happen in a variety of ways.
Well, don't be ways that can happen. Give them something direct. What do you want them to do?
The new task focus is to bring the top player close to you.
Okay. Where do you want them to look to grip?
You can use the back of the head, which is some good mechanical advantage here. It's the end of the lever to keep their posture broken.
Okay.
And then our other task focus is to control one arm,
Would define control.
such that they can't pull away from you.
Okay.
This would make it very difficult for him to pull away from me.
Okay, so keep them close
Yeah.
by focusing on gripping the arm and the head.
Yeah.
Now, do you want this to be the condition itself, or do you want them to work towards the arm in, arm out scenario?
Beginner player, we were focused on making this one, but you guys are way more advanced. So I think,
We're teaching beginners.
oh, we're teaching beginners. Okay, yeah, so this will be the win condition. If you can hold this position just for 2 seconds.
And what's the top player's job?
The top player's job was the same as before,
Perfect.
to not get into this position and to be able to open the feet and disengage.
Cool. Let's play for 3 minutes and see what happens.
Ooh. It's very close. It's hard to say because one thing I'm like hoping happens as a new coach watching this is that I'll see fast results of the implementation of like of the game.
What you should see is results of the intended task you gave them. So if you looked at, now these 2 athletes unfortunately are trained in task focus, so they're doing what you're asking them to do, and they are keeping them closer for longer periods of time. So it's actually working. You are saying, use the head and arm as targets to hold them close to you, and that's exactly what you're seeing.
Okay.
So you are getting a result. But the question is that the intended result?
Right.
And so this is why you need to play with task focus to see what comes out.
Right.
And then afterwards, okay, well, first time they were pushing and the guys are not, they're getting away. Okay, great, that's a problem. Well, we need to pull them to keep them close. Well, that's fine, but how does keeping them close afford the opportunity for arm and arm out scenario creation?
Right.
What else would you have to have them do to try to achieve that end?
Right.
While dealing with the problem of holding them close and not pushing them away.
Right.
Now we have answers, now we have data, now we have things that we can manipulate.
Right. I think in one more iteration of this game, I think we need a finale. We need an answer to this question.
Okay. All right, well then, time, let's call it right
Okay,
now.
let's call time.
Good job, guys. What'd you think this time?
It was easier to keep my legs closed around him for an extended period of time if I was able to keep his posture broken.
I was looking for the specific grip you wanted, but it was hard to get to it. Like, even if I brought myself a little closer to him, he was able to keep me away
What was keeping you away?
and pushing on me.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to give you my idea, and then you,
Okay.
as the pro game designer,
Hey,
wanna
I
hear-
am the assistant coach in this shit. All right.
Well, so for this final one, we're going to swap roles. So I'm going to give what I think is the answer.
Okay.
So my assumption here, if you're saying that there's problems with him still being able to push you, I think a task focus should actually be to clear his hands and get him to touch the mat, because then you can use that to assist in breaking the posture by controlling the head. That should also help you get to that nice grip around the arm in order to keep the posture broken. But so this is my theory. What's your
So
take?
let's clean it up a little bit. So your task would be to clear their hands. That would be one of the tasks. To try to use their head to pull them close. And then once the hands are on the mat, it would be easier to grab over the arm.
Yeah.
So those would be the tasks you give.
Right.
And you would put it back into play.
Right.
Now, my consideration would be, we started with, I want them to create the arm in, arm out scenario. So that's what I would start with in my mind. So if we knew as a experienced player that having the hands on the mat, keeping the posture low, and the hands separated were all precursor states for arm in, arm out scenario, that's where I would start them. I would start them with most of the conditions fulfilled so they could only focus on filling that final piece of the thing that I wanted them to understand.
Okay, so it would be sort of like Deandre was saying earlier about sort of starting at the end. We could
sure.
kind of the end game might actually be starting with that head and arm control.
Exactly.
And then the bottom player wins if they're able to get that one arm out condition, but starting from there. And then we could back up a step. Another game might be clearing the hands in order to establish that initial control.
Exactly right.
Okay.
Now we can work in multitude of directions. There is no thing that says we must work at the end, but we know that working in the end reduces variability. And we know if we initially reduce the variability for a new player, the information source is more rich to them and more relevant, because too much variability will blind them from the signal that's present or the information they need to reach their outcome.
Right.
So that's why we might want to choose that as a learning strategy. But it's not a hard rule. It's just one that we know has a positive effect.
Right. Okay. Do you guys want to do 1 minute starting at the end, or it's
Yeah,
cool if you all want to
we should have 1 minute left. So
Okay.
go ahead, start overhook. What I want you guys to do is keep the overhook to keep your partner close to you. And then I want you to try to keep the hands separated and create the arm in, arm out scenario using only your legs. Top player, try to stand up. Try to separate their hands. Separate their hands. Good. Good. Very good. Woo, much closer to our outcome.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
Now, even if he misses,
Right.
this is a good thing.
Right.
We saw his intention, right?
Right.
Maintain the grip to keep the posture down. Separate the hands. Reach the arm and out of scenario. He ultimately succeeded.
Right.
But we saw a little bit of mess there, right?
Yeah.
But we saw intention, right?
Right.
Good.
And the interesting thing here too is I'm no longer like as a coach, I'm no longer evaluating him as taking a sequence of steps to get there. We're like focusing purely on what he's attempting to do.
That's exactly right. Based on what you gave them to do.
Right.
So now you can see the effects of the tasks you gave them.
Right.
Are they clear to your students? Does it make sense for them to go in this direction? What kind of results are they getting?
Right.
So much information here to work with.
Right, and this is the first time we got to the arm in, arm out scenario. So the first game was like way too open. I guess too much variability and not the right task focus. Second game was sort of an initial step, but it was missing one key component, which is to separate the hands, right? And now, so we could rework those two games, and then I think this game actually might be a good starting point for a class, right? Like
I agree.
starting in sort of the end game scenario.
Time, guys. Good.
Cool.
Very nice.
Real quick debrief. So based on that game, what did you think?
Yeah, I got to experience really trying to hold them close and get there. The more general task of keeping the hands separated, I can keep it separated in a very wide degree where pushing in is very specific. So yeah, I felt good.
Being able to start with an attachment and his posture already being broken gave me a lot more time to explore separating his hands specifically, as opposed to trying to do multiple things at once.
Cool. All right, I guess that'll wrap it up. Great job, guys. Thank you for humoring me.
Good job, Coach.
Yeah, thank you, Coach.
Welcome. All right, we got open mat.
All right, let's do it.
Let's get to work.